You ever feel like sometimes you're just clawing your way through the day, whether it's mentally, emotionally, or physically, or all of the above? And like you just want to claw your way out of your own skin sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't matter how much I learn about myself or how much understanding I have for myself or how much grace I give myself. It gets so frustrating being in my body sometimes because, it mostly looks normal from the outside other than, I look constantly tired all the time. I wonder why. But it's just frustrating all this shit that's happening on the inside, when I go into a flare up. And sometimes, because it's so frustrating, because like when I'm fine, I'm good. It's like I can take on the world, I can multitask, I can think, know how to talk, I know how to do things. And sometimes it'll be just the dumbest things that will trigger a flare. Whether it's just a small illness, like a cold or, some fluid on my ears. Or, I trip and fall and bump my knee hard enough. Or, something stupid. Or I realize I've let myself be good for too long and I've let myself get overloaded. And then sometimes it's just like the whole world's attacking my body is what it feels like. The way I process sound, the way my vision starts to process or doesn't process, my nervous system, just, and it's been so long since I've really seen a doctor. It's very hard to see a doctor when you don't have insurance. And then even when you do have insurance, it's very hard to afford a doctor. And then, you go through all these years of misdiagnoses. And then, you finally get, what's an accurate diagnosis, but you don't get any information, because, it was, 20 years ago. They really didn't know much. It was, try this, see what happens. Here's a medication for this, and here's a new medication for the side effects that one's causing, and it just gets so frustrating. And the more you start learning how, they're connecting this to that, or these overlap with this, or, you still go all these years thinking it's one thing and it turns out that it's something else. It just gets so frustrating. Like, it's so frustrating. Sometimes I don't know how to talk. I don't know how to do anything. Like, I have to include the dogs in on what I'm doing sometimes, as if I'm teaching them how to do the dishes or do the laundry step by step. This is how you take the trash bag out of the trash. Because I'm having fun with my dogs, but also, so I can remember, stay focused and actually know the steps and what I'm doing. And then I learn ways to regulate myself. And then, I think of, I know I've never got it. Things are always going to be different or, new or lesser or worse. Or the flares are definitely different than they used to be. Before I lost weight and lost inflammation, like most of my flares, it was just chronic pain, just debilitating, bone, muscle crushing pain with the, nerve pain, the peripheral neuropathy, and the brain fog. After, I did the sugar fasting and then the intermittent fasting and all that, lost weight, actually lost inflammation and not just weight. like, it really changed how, my body responds to things. It's still, some things are better, but I also feel like some things are worse. And then I've got, the whole TBI. It's been 2 years now. I waited 3 weeks to go to the ER, and I only went because my eye doctor told me I needed to, because my retinas were starting to detach, or could detach. Like, I had blind spot in my vision. Sometimes when I get in bad flare-ups, those blind spots come back. And where I hit my head will start to fill up with pressure, and I get so worried about it. And then there's been other times where I've been so sick, and turns out I was having reactions to antibiotics that I never had problems with before. And I was having like mild anaphylaxis for a long time, not realizing I didn't have oxygen to my brain until, 3 times in 1 week went into full straight up anaphylactic shock and all that fun stuff. So then it's like, how much is autoimmune? How much is, being so sick with all that and the lack of oxygen to my brain? How much of it is hitting my head? And it's just, who knows? And sometimes it's just like, who cares? It is what it is. Knowledge is good. At the same time, it's frustrating, because then what can you even do with it? Like, and then every time I start to think I'm getting better, like, I'm trying to learn not to push myself to get better. Just because I'm feeling better doesn't mean I'm ready to go. Doesn't mean I can, I can't stand that. I can't stand certain sounds sometimes, or volumes, or like, I hear things, I feel things other people don't. And it's just, sometimes I can't even be inside the house. Even if everything is off, there's shit plugged in, it's contained in a box. I feel like an animal trapped in my own body, like an animal trapped in a cage, just pacing back and forth, just trying to figure out what to do with this energy, take a shower to try to ground it, regulate it, but, and then, I gotta be careful with my ears, because my ears don't drain. I've had problems with them my whole life, and realizing I don't process sound, I don't hear, that's why my memory, one reason apparently, for memory problems is you're not processing, that's why I misunderstand things a lot, don't hear things, don't connect things, and, and sometimes you get so overloaded. Sometimes all I can do is just wake up, and all I can do to just brush my hair, put on my boyfriend's softest shirt with a hole in it, it feels good on my skin. It sucks sometimes I can't even pet my dogs because they feel like sandpaper to me. Sometimes all I can do is sit outside in the fresh air. I spent a lot of time just sitting in front of the TV, not being able to walk, because, I've had to have so many surgeries on my feet, and they bother me so much lately, and the pains and stuff, they're starting to change, and it just causes a cringing feeling in my whole body. And, sometimes it feels good to just sit and just get it out, just to talk about it out loud, even if it's just, I guess, to myself. Even if, it's just a one person out there. I know a lot of you all go through this too. I know a lot of you all go through worse things. And it just sucks that we're all left to be so lost. Sometimes all I can do is just go sit outside and look at the sky. Especially at night if the stars and the moon are out. Planets. Sit and look at something bigger than myself. Or sit and stare at the fish tanks. sit and stare at something smaller than myself. Sometimes I just sit and watch the fish. I can't, it drives me crazy. Like, I can't watch TV like I used to be able to. Lights, sounds, I don't know. It gets so scary sometimes. It's like, I don't want to leave my house, but then I feel trapped inside the house. And it's like, you know, I get so overwhelmed being out in public sometimes when I'm in a flare. Sometimes I'm perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. I can get through public social interaction, no problem. Sometimes it's like my nervous system is just on constant lookout. And it's just exhausting. And then just the fatigue of everything. Sometimes you just have good energy and the fatigue just comes out of nowhere. It's like sometimes all of a sudden I'll just feel drunk or something, just floaty, like just loopy, like, you know. Sometimes it'll be followed by a crushing fatigue. Sometimes it'll just pass and I'll be fine, you know. And I know inflammation, autoimmune disorders, mast cell activations, all these different things can trigger, you know, flares can trigger things like that. It could be something from the TBI, who knows. All I get to do is sit and wonder about it alone. Like I said, I can't go to a doctor. Nobody wants to see you without insurance. Nobody wants to see you without money. I get it. You know, gotta make money. Whatever. It just sucks how everything's gotta be so systematic and a one-size-fits-all when really it fits nobody. Because it's like, even when you do go to the doctor, they just treat one part of you like that's the only thing that matters, and like it's not gonna just fuck up everything else if you like start fucking with it and don't take care of the rest of you. I don't know. I guess this was just a vent. I just needed to get it off my chest. I've just been so frustrated trying to come out of this flare. I feel like a scared little girl sometimes. It sucks. I felt more grown up when I was a kid than I ever have as an adult. I don't know. I just never felt like I fit. And, you know, I know why, but also it's confusing and it sucks at the same time. But I don't know. Maybe y'all can relate, clawing your way through the day. Drop a comment, say hey. If you know somebody who's clawing their way through the day, share it out. Let them know they're not alone. I have learned more from a lot of you all than I've learned from any doctor that I've ever seen. And it's not that it's the doctor's fault or anything. They're doing the best they can with what they've got, just like the rest of us. They're bound by their rules and regulations, and we're bound by our dysregulations. Cheers, y'all. Stay shiny.